Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. As you can see, my tank looks kind of boring and I don't really like how it looks. So I decided to re-scape the tank. And what better thing to do than to record me re-scaping my whole entire tank. Stay tuned. So, first things first, I am going to remove the wandering dew that's on the top of my tank. Next, I'm going to use an aquarium siphon to simply siphon out water into a 20 litre or 5 gallon bucket. This is where I'll store the fish while I re-scape the tank. After I siphon out some water, I start removing everything, including the filter, the thermometer, and the decorations and plants. I placed all the plants and decorations and filter into this 100 litre bowl, which is where I'll store everything until I re-scape the tank. As you can see, I'm tipping in the tank water that I siphoned before. Now, the hardest part of all this was catching the fish. To be honest, the plecos and snails were really easy to get out because they don't really move much. But all the tetras, lightbearers, and the betta fish were quite a challenge to get out. I actually left that container of plants in the middle there because I wanted to take them out last, but they kind of got in the way. Anyways, I'll fast forward this, but as you can see, I'm just catching all the fish out of the tank. Okay, so eventually after about 20 minutes, I caught all the fish, snails, and other stuff and put them into this bucket, which I will then put into the 100 litre bowl. As you can see, all the fish and snails are now in the bowl. The colors kind of pop because the bowl is dark, but they'll just remain in here until I'm finished re-scaping the tank. Now, the final thing left to do is to siphon out the rest of the water and to clean the gravel. I actually just noticed while editing this, but there was a single snail stuck to the side. I actually didn't notice him, but as you can see, I'm just cleaning the gravel. And this took a while, so I'm just going to show you guys what the water looked like after I finished siphoning. Yeah, the water was really filthy. I don't even have to explain why. So, now we have an empty tank with gravel in it. Well, it's not empty, but you know what I mean. I actually kind of just tipped the tank over to get the rest of the water out instead of siphoning the last bit. But, yeah. Now, the next step was cleaning. I actually just used some vinegar for this, and all I did was put some onto a tissue, and then I cleaned the glass with it. I then dry the glass with some basic newspaper as to get rid of any drip stains that there may be. After wiping down the tank, I put it back onto its stand. I was holding onto it with newspapers as to not put any fingerprints or markings onto it. Eventually I put it back perfectly onto the stand, and the newspaper actually got stuck, so I had to move it to get a piece of the newspaper out. But then after that I pushed the tank back into its spot. And then now we can start with aquascaping. I don't have any fancy tools, so I decided to just use my hands and spread the gravel out. I kind of knew where I was going with this design. It's actually kind of hard to see from this angle, so I'll show you guys the next angle once I'm ready to. As you can see, I'm kind of making like an area in the middle that's a bit empty, and you'll see why soon. To be honest, it kind of turned out alright for what I was trying to do. So as you can see, I'm just finishing it off a bit. And then now for the next part of the design I wanted, I decided to add some sand. Sorry, it just took a while to get that part, so I had to say it a bit slower. But I just added some sand with my hand, and eventually I laid it out. I would speed this bit up, but it doesn't match with my voice when I speed it up, so you guys are just gonna have to watch it in 1.0 speed. But as you can see, I'm trying to make like this road. I was gonna use like black sand, but here in Australia, at least where I live, I cannot find any black sand unless I go into eBay. But I'm not really going to do that just for sand. Okay, now, so this part is sped up. And as you can see, I'm just fixing it up, making it look nice and tidy. And then I'm adding some rocks to kind of make it look like it's actually put there, instead of just looking out of place. And I just got these rocks from my backyard, so I don't know how much they would actually cost. These are like the same rocks I use for my shrimp jar, but they're a bit bigger. Okay, so as you can see, there's like that little white circle my hand is. That's actually a plastic container which the Amazon sword was in before. And now there's sand and a little bit of soil in there for nutrients, and I just put some gravel on top. I'm going to be putting a plant in there which I think would be either a water lily or a banana lily. But yeah, so that's how the tank's looking at the moment. Now the first step to assembling the rest of the tank is to add in this kind of like big cave I have. I had to move around some of the rocks to make sure it fit. And I think it was nice putting it at the front and the corner. This would also help make a little area of darkness for when fish want to get away from the light. I then added the light behind it. Okay, so now the next step is putting back in the plants. As you can see, I have this banana lily which I dropped into the ground. But yeah, that's what I'm going to be putting into the container with soil in it. So I dig up a little hole, I bury the roots in there, and then I cover it back up. I was actually nervous. This is my very first banana lily, but apparently it's not hard. I then got my regular Amazon sword, and I wanted to plant this right next to the banana lily, in the middle where it would get the most light. So I kind of had to also dig a hole there and plant the Amazon sword in. I also placed some root tabs in there, which was just a bunch stacked together because they were a bit wet. But as you can see, I just covered the roots up with some gravel, and boom, it's looking nice. I then decided to add this other Amazon cord called a Queen Marble Amazon sword, which I thought was cool. This is a new one for me as well, so I added a few root tabs, and then I just stuck her into the corner where she'll get a decent amount of light, because I'm assuming it also needs a good amount of light. I'm also going to be getting a new light which has more of a spread of light across the tanks, so that both Amazon swords get enough light. Next I have this temple plant, which I just got as an assorted plant, but I'm pretty sure it's a temple plant. I thought it would be good to put near the middle, but I changed my mind and put it into the far back corner behind the cave. And hopefully it'll grow up to look like a good background plant. It's actually quite hard to put in. The final plant is a large bunch of water wisteria. Since water wisteria can live in medium to high light, I put it into the corner right next to the cave. My platy was actually pretty stressed, so I thought this would be a good hiding spot for her. And at the moment, the water exterior is still pretty green and alive, so I don't think it minds having that bit of shade too much. Finally, I added my driftwood in, and then I put down a napkin on top of the driftwood so that when I fill up the tank, my gravel doesn't get spread everywhere. I then use a kid bucket from Kmart to just slowly fill up this tank. I actually used a really bad choice of napkin, as the napkin put particles all over the water. So if you do this, make sure you choose a napkin that won't put particles in the water. Yeah, that was kind of a bad mistake of mine. As you can see, the napkin actually just absorbed all the water right away too, so I should have removed it then and there. But I didn't, and that was a really dumb thing to do. Anyways, filling up the water took about 40 minutes, I'd say, because I had to keep going backwards and forwards and collecting water from my other bucket to bring back. And then I had to refill my other bucket once it ran out, and then dechlorinate and everything. So, yeah, I have a few cycles of going backwards and forwards, and I think I'll speed this up, and then eventually, once I speed up for a little bit of time, I will just skip to how the end product looks. So enjoy. Okay, so as you can see, the water is pretty cloudy. You can see in the top corner of the tank, I put this cheap Kmart filter in there simply because I already had it cycling, so I thought might as well put it in here also to collect all the tissue particles that I had. So, at the moment, the water has gone clear, so there's no longer any particles in it. But when I first set it up, it was really cloudy from all the tissue particles. The next thing I did was add back my sponge filter. The water is actually quite full. I normally don't fill it up fully because I have a female mystery snail who lays eggs, but recently she passed, so I can fill it all the way up. I get this airline tubing with a check valve on it, and I connect it back to my sponge filter. Next, I decide to add this floating ring. There. And this is normally where I put all my floating plants like frogbit and duckweed and anything else like Embulia. Sometimes I put in there, but the Embulia normally just floats away. So, yeah. I actually don't know what I was doing in that part there, but right after that, I think I added the frogbit and stuff back. Okay, yeah, so here's the frogbit. I had to readjust the camera for some reason, but then I just tossed the frog bit back in and a few baby snails fell with it. Okay, so the next step is adding back the inhabitants. As you can see, there's the mystery snails floating in a bag over there in the corner. The water parameters were really similar in the old and new tank, so I just floated these guys to get a different, a temperature acclimation. I acclimated them by floating them on the tank for roughly 15 minutes each. As you can see in here, I'm letting the snails go. They were the first inhabitants, as I was worried how they'd do with the sand. The biggest mystery snail, my J-Born, actually had a lot of air trapped inside him, so he floated around for a bit before eventually just sinking back down like nothing ever happened. There he goes. But I think they're fine on the sand. Eventually I added back all the inhabitants, and this is the new scaped tank. I believe it looks so much better than the original. I'm also going to be getting a new background and a new light, so when I get those, I will make a new video connected to this, and I really hope it does look good. The plants all are sitting well. My banana lily has already started to grow quite a bit, and I also stuck a Java fern onto the rock in front of my Amazon sword. So yeah, everything's good. I'm not sure if I'll be posting anything on poultry for a bit because nothing's really interesting has happened, but I hope I can. Um, Anyways, I'll be setting up a 4-foot tank soon, so I'm not sure if I'll be making a video on that or not, but if I do, then hey, I hope to see you all in the future.